Today is the 13th of October. It is 15:49. So I've had a couple thoughts on my mind lately, and I just kind of had something, just had it kind of come to a head a few moments ago. So I want to address people who, let's put it a better way. How much control are you willing to give the government over your life? It's an honest question. How much control are you willing to give the government over your life? There's an old saying that those who give up freedom for safety will get neither. Unless you've been living under a rock, there is a huge political movement within our nation, thinly disguised as equity. It really is just American communism. If you don't recognize the steps that totalitarianists take to gain power, you are sadly misled. If you turn off the TV, stop watching TV for about a year, and you'd be surprised how much your mind will clear and how easy it is for you to spot being manipulated. You really need to, I'm not joking about this. Just even through the commercials that you see, how they're using you as a subject of propaganda. So I got to thinking about this. How much are you willing to give your freedom up for? And I'm saying this because we are almost at a 2-year point with this whole nonsense that we've been living in. And I keep telling people, this is never going away. This disease that we have been subjugated to is now endemic, meaning it's part of the environment that we live in. It's been unleashed. You know what it's like? It's like going onto an island and releasing a cage full of rats, and there are no predators. The island is predator free. It's a beautiful place. You put the rats there, and the rats multiply with no predators, and the next thing you know, it's overrun with rats, and it's damn near impossible to get rid of them. That's what we're talking about here. So view this with that mindset. It's here. It's here. There's nothing you can do about it. So what do we do? Well, the truth is probably told. A vast majority of the people have already been exposed to this, and they've had it and didn't know it, or it was so mild it wasn't a big deal, and the immunity is probably widespread. But like any other thing, there's going to be a segment of the population that ain't going to handle it. That's how disease works. I'm sorry, that's how disease works. Look, I lost my grandmother to tuberculosis in 1967. How many people watching this lost a loved one to tuberculosis? Well, 60, 70, 80 years ago, tuberculosis was a horrible disease for most of humanity's existence, particularly Europeans. Tuberculosis. It claimed the life of my grandmother, and when I was 3 years old. I don't know anybody that lost a parent or a family member to tuberculosis, but I did. Is tuberculosis still around? You bet it's still around. And you would be surprised if you got an antibody test for tuberculosis. You might show test positive for it, but that doesn't mean you have the disease. I'm just using this as a train of thought. You have unscrupulous people who are taking advantage of this worldwide to try to bring in a worldwide system of compliance. If you don't understand this, you need to look what's in this $1 trillion spending bill that the Democrats have put forward, that are trying to pass. You need to look at some of the nuances in there. A lot of it has nothing to do with spending. It has to do with ending a lot of your individual freedoms, taking away the things that you take for granted, like beef and pork. because they're putting this new Green Deal bullshit in there, the belief that animals are causing harm to the world. What this all comes down to is something really, really simple. You have a segment of people in this world who are opposed to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They know he exists. They know he is real, but they don't want half the world to know about it. And they serve the antagonist. They serve the enemy. They serve the one that's diametrically opposed to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They serve him. Okay? And what they're trying to do is usher in a new world order. We hear this all the time. We've been hearing it for years. If you haven't heard it before, I don't know what to tell you. I think the first time I publicly heard that was George Bush Sr. spitting it out one time during some speech, which really got my eyebrows raised, and I was probably in my 20s, I believe, at the time. And here's where I want to go with this. They're using this situation to take control because people are begging, save us, save us, save us. You as parents, anybody that has kids, and you sent your kids to college, you sent your kids off to an indoctrination camp. You got your kids in public school right now. They're being indoctrinated into this nonsense. And I want to explicitly tell you this. The people who think that the world is coming to an end through climate change are people who don't believe that there's a God that controls these things. That's really the truth. They believe that we're heading towards extinction like the dinosaurs by our own hands. Because they don't believe in a higher power. They don't believe that there's a God that's going to fulfill things that he said he was going to fulfill. They don't believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's just fantasy land for people. So they believe that we evolved from monkeys and we got to the point where our population is out of control, and in the world, in order to survive, we have to drastically do something to control ourselves. Otherwise, the planet's going to die. These are people that don't believe in that God has got a handle on things. So in order to do that, they want to do some radically different things that's going to alter your life, your children's life, your grandchildren, and everybody that comes after you for a lie. For a lie. They want to control what farmers raise. They want to control what ranchers raise. They want to control the production of livestock, anything that has to do with meat. They want to turn you into vegetarians. They want to keep you eating soy. And if you think that soy is good for you, you need to do a little research. They want to keep you on that nonsense. They want to get everybody, they want to get the human population down to a manageable level, and I don't even know what the hell that is. Put everybody in mega cities, make the entire world a wildlife preserve, have designated areas for agriculture, and limit where you could go, limit the goods that you can buy. Have you heard this? Somebody recently said this. You will have nothing and be happy. Did you notice he didn't say we? He said you. He's pointing, you will have nothing and be happy. This is just Bolshevikism. This is the bullshit that Vladimir Lenin started. This is the shit that came from Karl Marx. This is all satanic, nasty ass, humanistic bullshit. Now, I'm going to talk to those who are spiritually enlightened, where spiritual things have nothing to do with politics. That is the biggest lie you have ever been taught. Anybody who has read the Bible understands the entire Bible is a political book. If you don't know that, you never read it. You never read the whole thing and seen the struggles between kingdoms and kingdoms, man against man, political ideology. Jesus was a political prisoner. Do you understand that? I don't think you understand where Jesus came from And what he dealt with, he was in a two-party system. He was in a religious system and a secular system. Secular system ruled by Rome, overriding the religious system. The religious system knew darn well who he was. They understood it meant to enter their power, and they knew it. They didn't want their hands, the blood of his on their hands. So they made the appeal to the secular government, the Roman government, to deal with him. You don't think that was political? Everything, Jesus was well aware of that. When somebody comes to him and says, should we pay our taxes? Jesus asks for a coin. He gets a coin. He says, whose face is on this coin? And somebody says, Caesar. He gives the coin back to them. Render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, but render unto God what is God's. What does that mean? It means these are the taxes that Caesar's demanding of you. Give him what's demanded of him, what he's demanding of you. But everything belongs to God. Even that. God, everything belongs to God. Every good and wonderful thing belongs to God. You give it to him, meaning you owe God everything. You owe him everything because he's the one that keeps you breathing and keeps your heart beating. Give unto God what is God's. You don't think that he wasn't political? You don't think the whole showdown between Moses and Pharaoh, political? The whole thing with Sodom and Gomorrah, political? Every single thing that goes on in that Old and New Testament is steeped in politics because human beings are a political creature. Politics have to do with ideologies, and people are represented in their ideologies by the belief system that they carry. You don't think atheists got a religion? Bullshit. They have a religion. The religion is very simple. It's secular humanism. It has its tenets. And now, liberalism? The Democrats and liberals, you don't think there's tenets in liberalism? Look at what's going on. That whole idea of being woke and being canceled. That is the Catholic version of being excommunicated. Do you not see this? Or is your head so wrapped up in other things that you can't ponder these things? If you find yourself, if you're a spiritual person, and I don't even know where you're, that's a loaded question in as of itself, because even terrorists that blow themselves up are quote unquote spiritual because they're doing it for spiritual reasons. That has a political effect. It's time to wake up. Now is the time to wake up. And I'm talking to people that are in the body of faith, in the body of Christ, who have avoided politics and avoided this and stuff because they don't think that faith has any place to do with it. That is complete, utter garbage, because you represent your faith. And if your faith is truth and justice and fairness, and you really believe that, and it's part of who you are, then you should be representing people in that aspect in the political realm. And I'm not saying that you have to run out and run for mayor, but damn, get in front of a school board. If you got kids in school and they're teaching some kind of crazy stuff to your children, get up there. Get up there in front of that school board and give them holy hell. You know, we've got a bunch of pilots in a company that are standing up saying we're not being forced to get vaccinated. We have nurses that are leaving. I don't want to get forced to get vaccinated. I lost a friend who got vaccinated. Blood clots in her lungs. You know, I mean, how many people do you know that die from blood clots in their lungs just by happenstance? Just happens. Just happens. You go get your jib one day, and then a few days later you're not feeling well, and the next, and your lungs are clogged up, and you drop dead on your kitchen table. I'm not kidding you about this. I'm not telling people not to get this. But that's your choice if you do that. The thing is you don't know what the long-term consequences of something like this is when you rush it out like that. The reason we have an FDA and they take forever to develop things is because they want to minimize the risks. When was the last time you watched a commercial on some type of drug and you listen to all the side effects and you say, shit, I'd rather just have the disease. I think everybody that hears this understands that. Just try Lyrica. So side effects may be suicidal thoughts, blood clots, blah, 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 everything else. I mean, the litany goes on longer than the commercial for the product. When it's done, you don't even know what the hell the product was for after you heard all the side effects of it. And you don't think when they come up with some type of a thing that are going to shoot you up and make you immune to something doesn't have a consequence in some aspect for somebody? You may walk around fine, but you don't know what will happen in 10 years. You don't know what that's going to do, just like these medications. They didn't know what half this stuff did until years later. How about the mesh they use for hernias? Now, people got problems with that. I am just saying, it's time when you have to wake up and say, when is enough enough? When are you willing to stand up and say, I am not going to put up with this. I'm going to walk away from my job. And I'm going to say this. Anybody that's well-skilled and went to college and went and got, particularly in the medical field and pilots and stuff, they can walk, because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to cripple these industries, and then they're going to be begging for you to come back to work because you think they're going to go. How many of you people watching this think that they're going to go and start looking for pilots out of the 100,000 illegal immigrants that are crossing our border every day down in the South? Do you think they're going to go look in that crowd for pilots, nurses, doctors? Do you really think that? When they start looking for these people to replace the ones that they got lost, where are they going to find those people? Where are they going to find the nurses? It's a highly skilled field. It requires a lot of schooling. They're not just going to pull those people out of thin air. Period. I mean, that's just the way it is. And you know what? It's time to wake up. How much freedom are you willing to give up for the false sense of security? Because I'm telling you, that's exactly what it is. Because once the government takes one thing away, when they take one freedom away, they keep taking more and more. They take little bits and pieces. You know what it's like? It's like a cereal box. You go to the store to buy your favorite cereal and the prices just went up through the roof, but the cereal box still looks the same till you pull it off the shelf, and instead of it being this thick, it's this thick. Have you noticed that? Well, that's what the government does. On the outside, it looks great. And you go and take it off the shelf and you say, what the hell happened to it? That is what's happening. So it's time to stand up. Particularly you people of faith. And honestly, if your church is avoiding what is going on, find a new church. They should be talking about this, because they sure as hell did in the past. We would never have had a revolution in this country if the pulpit was not behind it 250 years ago. If the pulpit wasn't behind it, it wouldn't happen. Sure, there were loyalists, but there weren't a lot. There were loyalists, and then there were others that weren't. So how much freedom are you willing to give up for your false sense of security? When are you going to stand up? That's the big question. But once again, if you don't think that religion has anything to do with politics, you are so jacked up, and you have never read the Bible. And I'm talking when you read it cover to cover, and see how full of it is with politics. Kingdom against kingdom, king against king, nation against nation, and how a nation, people would be under a bad king. If that's not politics, what is? We right now are living in a situation where we got a guy in the White House who is saying things that if Donald Trump did, there'd be riots in the street. Riots in the street, burning buildings. Could you imagine if Donald Trump put a mandate for vaccines? What would really happen? You all know what would happen. But this other joker could do it, and everybody's, oh yeah, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. It's time to wake up. The double standard is sickening. You should all be wanting to puke about this. I don't get fearful of stuff like this. I get angry. I get angry I never get fearful about this stuff. I just get mad. And all of us should be mad. Till next time.